Hello there and welcome back to Simon's Shed, and it's time for another loco service video. This time we got two locos, a brace of B1s from Dapol. We got a LNER green and a BR black. Now the video is going to feature the black one. There are two because I bought the green one, that's my own loco, and it's not standard. I've actually ripped out the bit in the tender and just hardwired a chip. That will become more relevant later, but the black one was donated to me by somebody who was getting out of the hobby, and it wasn't quite good enough to eBay. They thought I might be able to fix it up and get it running smoothly, because it wasn't running very well. So that's exactly what we're going to try and do today. So yeah, I did service both, but only filmed the black one, and yeah, definitely worth sticking around for this one. There will be smoke, that's all I'm saying. Right, so we've got the instructions from Dapol, how it all goes together, and we've actually got obviously two spares bags. So we've got plenty of spares. We got our tools, our DAP oil to oil it, and various screwdrivers, and as I say, a couple of bags of spare bits. Yeah, the first thing, it's very hesitant to run, very jerky. So first thing we're going to do is, all of the drive comes from the tender, so the motor's in the tender. You can see that, so we're going to separate the tender from the main loco. You can see that there, that metal pocket should actually be secured into the tender, so it's kind of fallen out, so we'll glue that back on later. And you can see a couple of wires sending the power from the tender to the loco, so you need to separate those. And we've also got a lot of brake rigging on the bottom of the tender and the loco, so let's get that off. Just unclips quite easily, and I'll mention it again later, but I ended up leaving this off because I did have problems running, well, one of these locos, and it was just jumping off the track in very strange places. Took the brake rigging off and it ran absolutely fine, so worth knowing if you are having odd running problems with these. And I'd definitely like to hear from you in the comments if you've got one of these and your experiences with it, because yeah, my experiences have not been great. So unclip the brake rigging, unscrew the wires. Yeah, the initial one, the green one, smoke came out of that as well a long time ago, so I ripped out the electronics from the tender and just hardwired a DCC chip straight to the motor and got it running again that way. I think it was out of warranty by that point, but I just wanted to make a video about it, to be honest, so rather than returning it or repairing it, I just made the video. Now, first thought was maybe the power's not quite getting through to the motor, so power comes through the wheels to the sort of points on the axles, and then it goes into the, I guess, copper strips at the sides of the tender where the points of those wheels touch. So I thought I'd clean those up, and there the wheels go. Give those a clean up to make sure the power's getting through, improve the conductivity. So we'll rescue the wheels, and yeah, once the brake rigging's off and everything's separated, the tender body just unclips like that and just slide it over the sort of dog bone connector. There's the motor, and there's the board, and there's a whole bunch of electronics gubbins underneath there. No idea what it is. We'll come back to that later. So here I'm literally just trying to put a tiny drop of oil on the motor shaft, and then we get the inox which is a sort of lubricant and electrical, sort of an electrical cleaner. It sort of helps with the conductivity, so I put that on the points of the wheels and they spin a lot more freely now and hopefully have a better electrical connection as well. So pop those back in. They just slot in, a little bit of force is required to clip them in and out. And yeah, after I did that, the wheels were turning a lot more freely. So apply some power. This is on DC, obviously with a, I think at this point we're using the Bachmann train set controller. Keep your eye on that dog bone. But you can sort of see the movement in the motor is so violent that it shakes itself off the track until you hold it down, and then it's nice and smooth. So don't know what is going on with that motor, but that's definitely part of the problem. Now, you could blame the controller. It's not the best DC controller in the world. It's not the most expensive. It's just the Bachmann train set one, and to be fair, it was probably worse with the Hornby train set one, which I try later, which is even cheaper and plasticier. Say goodbye to the dog bone. Oh, there it goes. So I did find that. But yeah, it's sort of shaking itself off the track as it speeds up, which is not great. So at this point, I'm kind of happy that the motor at least works, and there's not really anything else I can do inside the tender. So yeah, it's rolling nice and freely, so we move on to the main loco. You have to take the sort of pony truck off the front to get to this screw, which separates the body. Not much dirt or debris or fluff or anything in the gears, so I watch this bar here. It's quite prone to snapping because it is sort of wedged into the cab. I guess it's the reverser lever, so just keep an eye on that. And yeah, quite a lot of oil you can see in places where it shouldn't really be, so we'll clean that up. And we're just unclipping the worm gear, and all I really want to do is test how freely the wheels move. Just makes sure nothing's jammed up in the sort of mechanism in terms of the sort of running gear, and it seems pretty good, to be honest. No problems there. So I gave that a clean up and a wipe down, mostly to remove all the oil from where it shouldn't be and put some new little dots of Dapol where it should be. So that's all done. I didn't disassemble it any further. I certainly don't want to be taking the sort of running gear apart on a steam loco. I think that's a bit too advanced for me at the moment. So realign the body, and the tricky bit, as I said before, is that bar getting the sort of reverser lever back through the gap and into the cab. It's reasonably bendy. I managed not to snap either of mine on either loco. Pop the screw back in to secure the upper body back to the running plate, and put the front truck back on. And in a minute I'll rig up a little sort of test so we can run the loco without moving it. But yeah, in the meantime we need to connect the loco back to its tender. So I had sort of fixed that socket, just super glued it back in so that the screw goes into that metal socket there and holds. And the wires need to be screwed back on there, very, very fiddly. Take your time with that. I think I was wearing the sort of magnifying headset at this point, just to make things a bit easier. So in goes the final screw for that wire. And it's going to work. Fern smiling for the camera. Switch it on then. I'm trying to train her to help, but I'll do it myself. No. I love how she poses for the camera. But yeah, this is what I rigged up to. Sort of rolling road that's not really a sort of suspended rolling road, which worked for my purposes but is probably not recommended. And so you can hear it is running like that, but as soon as you put it on the track it sort of shakes itself to bits and shakes itself off the rails, which loses the connection, and then it drops back onto the rails and starts all over again. So this is with the bit better with the Bachmann controller. However, there we go, can you see it? There is now smoke coming out of the tender. I did let it cool down after this, but at this point I've decided to do the same as with the green one and rip all of the electronics out and just hardwire a chip in, because if it's sending out smoke already, then yeah, it's not looking good, is it? So yeah, a bit better with the Bachmann controller, but ripped everything out, just left the motor wires. You can see there, this is the other bit that's in the electronics. Any ideas what that is or what it's for? I'm not great with electronics. So, long story short, we hardwired the chip and we get some incredibly realistic smoke effects just out of the wrong end of the loco. So yeah, at this point I gave up and decided to quit, at least on the black loco. It turns out the green one fared a lot better. So yeah, no idea why we're still getting smoke pouring out of the tender, even with the DCC chip fitted. But yeah, I kept a careful eye on the chip and it did start to warm up, so I just cut my losses before I started blowing up DCC chips. And yeah, that black one is, I'm afraid, going to be an interesting scrap scene project. So it won't be wasted, but still, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. We serviced the green one, so let's have a look at that. Okay, we're back in the shed. The black B1, I think, is going to be abandoned there and made to look like a scrap scene. We'll give up on that one. However, the green one, let's just slow it right down. That's the slowest it'll go. It's running beautifully. I'll give it a good run in both directions. And it's my bold claim that that is the best running, smoothest, quietest Dapol B1 in the world. So I've given it my usual DCC settings. tender does get quite warm on this, so I'm not going to run it for long periods. But she does look good. So a 50% hit rate on the Dapol B1s, at least we got one running nicely again. But quite a frustrating loco to service and repair. So I got some Hunt couplings in there. I've got my usual DCC settings added. And I'm leaving the brake rigging off the bottom. Yeah, let's give it a bit of a high speed run. So this is what I've set the maximum speed to. I've limited it slightly. I think that's plenty. So thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.